The old farmhouse crouched on the hill, a gnarled, dark thing against the fading light. As their car lurched and bumped down the overgrown drive, a coldness seeped into the bones of the four friends inside. Dean, usually a fountain of bad jokes, tried a few, but even his grin seemed forced. This weekend escape, meant to be a blast of freedom from the city, already felt like a wrong turn. The house itself was worse up close. Paint peeled like sunburnt skin. Windows were grimy eyes staring out onto the world, and a smell, something ancient and damp, clung to the air. They unloaded their bags, the silence punctuated only by the rustle of dying leaves and the nervous click of Calvin's lighter. Sam, the group's resident history buff, couldn't resist launching into a spooky tale. Old William Penn's grandson built this place, he began, his voice a little too enthusiastic. And legend has it, he murdered his whole family right here before hanging himself in the basement. As dusk bled into night, the mood shifted. The initial bravado, fueled by a six-pack and some questionable pills, evaporated. Shadows stretched and writhed in the corners of the rooms, the flickering fire in the hearth casting dancing demons on the walls. Evan, always the quiet one, grew increasingly jumpy, his gaze fixed on something just beyond the other's sight. Then he was gone. Panic, cold and sharp, sliced through the remnants of their high. They called his name, their voices swallowed by the house's oppressive silence. They found his bag in his room, untouched. A knot of dread tightened in their stomachs. Where could he be? Driven by a cocktail of fear and morbid fascination, they decided on a seance. Gathered around a rickety table in the living room, they lit candles, their flames trembling in the still air. Sam, his face pale but determined, began to chant, calling out to whatever spirits might linger within the walls. A sudden gust of wind snuffed out the candles, plunging them into absolute darkness. A glass on the table shattered, sending shards of crystal skittering across the floor. Something was here, something old, something evil. The discovery of Evan's body the next morning confirmed their darkest suspicions. He hung from a rafter in the basement, his face a mask of frozen terror. Calvin, white as a sheet, stumbled upon the gruesome scene, his screams ripping through the heavy silence. Sam and Dean, their earlier bravado replaced by stark terror, found him curled up in a ball, babbling about shadows and whispers. They grabbed the first things they could find, an axe from the shed, a fireplace poker, and began a frantic search of the house. Every creak of the floorboards, every rustle of wind, sent their hearts hammering against their ribs. They were trapped, miles from civilization, their cell phones useless. As they tried to escape, their car stubbornly refused to turn over. Stranded, they were forced to return to the farmhouse, drawn back by an unseen, malevolent force. Inside, the house seemed to hold its breath, waiting. Sam, driven by a desperate need to understand, found a hidden room in the basement. Inside, a collection of journals chronicled the house's true horror. The stories within were far more terrifying than any ghost tale. Then, Dean appeared. His face was gaunt, his eyes hollow and black. He held the axe, its head gleaming dully in the dim light. His voice, when he spoke, was a guttural rasp, no longer Dean's. "It's time," he said, a chilling smile spreading across his face, "to finish what he started." The story ends there, on a precipice of horror. The farmhouse stands silent once more, its secrets locked within its decaying walls, waiting for the next unsuspecting souls to wander into its darkness.